Wild Geese Over the Desert by Glenn Ward Dressbach. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Wild Geese Over the Desert. From sunset slowly fading to misted beryl and blue, streaked with the melted topaz, the goose wedge comes in view. The boughs of twisted cedars on ledges darkly sway, making a futile gesture to rise and fly away. Nothing will have beginning, and nothing end in me, for watching the geese fly over, that any one may see. Only my heart makes gesture of lifting wings to go, like boughs of the twisted cedars, dark on a fading glow. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Song by Arthur Symons. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Silver bangles on the wrists, chains like hanging fruit. From her head a pale bough nodding to her naked foot. Eyes half asleep, earrings like the wild mood. And the silken dawn had clothed the body with webs from her loom. Gypsy, gypsy, the moon is on the wane. Why did you steal the moon for your earrings, and my heart to hang on your chain? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Challenge by Mary Brent Whiteside. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. These times are the ancient times, when the world is ancient, and not those which we account ancient by an inverted reckoning. Bacon. Now are the ancient times. The world is old, and old are we who have the messages of burning Ilium, of Socrates, from his dark cup. Can we be young, who hold in living hands the tale Assyria told, and, master of illimitable seas, the key to yet sublimer destinies? Our youth passed by with Sargon's squandered gold. We are the ancient world. It is for us, who saw the ruin of Sardanapalus, and then the proud Hellenic glory pass, the challenge of the ages. False and true, ye have our blood-bought message. Yet, alas, what would we learn, should we come back from you? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Vestments by Edward Sapir. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Vestments. The blue sky's a carapace for the green glint field. Wrapped in the glory of your face is a soul seven-sealed. O heart of me, O painted door to another heart of me, life is a glittering screen for another mystery. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Trees in Paris, 1890, by Arthur Symons. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. The pining leaves that only know the light of Paris gasp by night, the leaves that hunger for the harvest moon, and sunny birds that croon among the branches rocking in the breeze. The piteous boulevard trees, how can they drink the day or night across such memories of loss? All day they dream of sunlight such as yields its rapture to the fields, of streams that curl about the roots now grown half brother to the stone. And all the night they long for the cool gleams the moonlight lays on streams. All that they see, instead of flocks and herds and happy flights of birds, is the long dull mechanic flow of feet through links of jostling street, the wheels that turn behind the patient horse upon his weary course, and all the human faces dull and base, face after tedious face. This is the fate of trees that know the light of Paris gas by night. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet to My Wife by Maxwell Bodenheim. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Sonnet to My Wife. They say that music is the squandered cry of starved emotions on a mountainside, and that celestial sweat is on their stride, flinging its tortured glint upon their shy and wild sounds as they rush or creep to high in liquid death on tops of sensual pride. This children's rhapsody is like a bride who paints a sentimental kiss on sky. Deride the shallow eloquence of sound that throws its sighs and cries against the mind, and listen to the cold voice of my wife. Her music, cut by thought, makes a profound mosaic whose sardonic stones are lined into a question poised at noisy life. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Wedding Gifts by Paul Eldridge. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Wedding Gifts. I am gathering a large bouquet of weeds and dead leaves and long thorns for my soul, bride of truth, upon her wedding day. I am gathering a lapful of sharp-pointed stones and deep sacks of mockery and laughter, confetti for the grand procession. I am gathering dry faggots and heavy logs, a thick rope, and a tall, smooth pole for my soul, bride of truth, upon her wedding day. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Love is Such a Mischief by John McClure. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Love is such a mischief that I dare not say I would give you riches to barter it away. Sired by disaster, damned by discontent, gold that would buy it is spendthrift spent. Were it worth a penny, were it worth a song, ere I purchased any I should falter long. Time no more shall find me in such sorry plight, who once bought too dearly so false a delight. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Presences by Oscar Williams. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Presences. All day I played in the winter sun and came back home when the day was done. I lit the lamp in my dusty room, and something vanished in the startled gloom. Something in the dark and heavy air lit like teeth with a savage flare. The fingers of snow on the ledge where the sea climbing into the room on me. In the pointed shadows of table and chair were the toes of darkness hiding somewhere. The silence looked, our eyes came to grips, and the tall, gray door was a finger to his lips. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Ballad Inventory by Dominic d'Armes. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. In all lands and down the ages, as their Boswells prove, to the bane of Scades and sages has been tendered love. To Catullus was allotted Lesbia, a wily woman. White she was, but not unspotted. He was human. Unto Ovid was vouchsafed Fickle fanciful Coraina. Very soon love's riband chafed This bewitching sinner. To Petrarch was Laura given, Little loath to hear his pleas. Abelard enjoyed court heaven With Dame Heloise. Lonely Dante, gaunt and burning For the icy Beatrice, Spent himself and youth in learning Love's dark mysteries. Herrick sighed in vain for Julie. Callow Shakespeare, conscience struck, Wived his paramour, and duly run amuck. Hot Dick Lovelace, gallant knightly, Pale Lucasta did adore. Who shall say or wrong or rightly He loved honour more? Sidney plained his love to Stella, Keats to Fanny Brawne. Shelley, visionary fellow, Honeyed more than one. Byron, Goethe, loved their many. Hearken, read and rule. He is wise who loves not any, And a fool. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Two poems by Maxwell Bodenheim. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Two poems. Old Actor. Any minor poet can claim that his subject resembles music. Her steps were notes of music. His presence was like a song. You are like a long neglected instrument, from which the player with overconfident lips blows only a jet of dust that falls upon the damp chagrin of his face. Moist from the futile effort, he asks his listeners to admire imaginary notes. They clap their hands, and he must retire to the slow digesting of his lie. Old actor, you have finished reciting Hamlet. Your pennies are gathered, and you depart from the velvet noise of the restaurant. Imaginary people. To hide your isolation, you become tame and loquacious, bowing to the men who bring you ornaments and poverties. Your cryptic melancholy dwindles then, solved by the distant contrast of your words. Your loneliness, with an amused relief, sits listening to your volubility and idling with an enervated grief. The play does not begin until you say your last good night, for you have only made a swindled fantasy regain its parts. Throughout the night you held an unseen blade upon your lap and trifled with its hilt, and now you lift it with submissive dread. Should you attack your loneliness and grief now that they are asleep? You shake your head. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Last Night by James Fibleman. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. The Last Night. Some day, when each brave heart I've loved in turn goes the old way and life is desolate, I think that one in silence will return to the dead haunts and forms she knew of late. There will be for her pleasant paths to go, and a quick friend she could not know of old. But, seeing now, the phantom world will glow, tremble, and start, and suddenly turn cold. Fond shade, there will be welcome for you here. Within the lonely boundary of walls, most anxious, he will listen with thin fear, all frightened, for remembered soft footfalls. So filling the dull gloom with a keen past, the night will go, and this will be his last. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
At Broad Bar by Martha Webster. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. I saw a wise sea wife washing a red rough muffler for sea wear and shaking her head, grizzled, long wed, murmuring, mumbling, and now he must go. Comes fear on my heart like foam on a bow, but there, let him go. The stravaging wind seeks on the sea, and a boat is a ship. The sea drawn are eager to go in a ship, to come in a ship. I saw a bent sea wife go out bonneted to dry a wet muffler of kelp color red, shaking her head. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. In the Patio by Louis Gilmore. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. What you show leads one to imagine the rest. It is not nice to show so much or so little. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Since You Love Beauty, O My Soul, by Paul Eldridge. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Since you love beauty, O my soul. Since you love beauty, O my soul, I shall build a golden cross for you, and stud it heavily with costly jewels. The nails to pierce your palms and feet shall be of purest silver, sharp as swords. The hands that drive them soft and white, and covered with rings of rare designs. The vinegar perfumed with the breath of lilies shall overbrim a cup of dazzling jade. High priest shall throw dice, diamond dotted, to win your silken robe. Since you love beauty, O my soul. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Garret of Dreams by William Griffith. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. The Garret of Dreams. Pierrot, having taken a garret, once found he had mislaid the rent. Should the concierge sue, what was he to do? Move out or stay in? Shout aloud to the crowd? Or say to himself, with an impious grin, that he must have been sent by the goblins to give the place éclair and free it of sin, where within, beyond doubt, such abodes are too apt to abound. A sort of quaint, ragged place, forgotten, forlorn, suggesting disgrace, was this for a poet to lease, much less to inhabit in peace. Yet Pierrot, being simply a poet half born and half made, had somewhere to live. in the absence of such as Pierard, and strive between days to forgive and forget. Ah, strange as it seems, he managed to dwell and sleep well in his garret of dreams. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Painted Girls by Oscar Williams. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Painted Girls. The painted girls are dancing like motes within a brain. The warning hand of the darkness is the black window pane. The floor of silver glimmers, the orange bubbles gleam, and shadows move in mirrors, frail as the glass of dream. A universe is turning its huge, slow wheels of sleep, and fog like shadow harmony is rolling through the deep. The huge, slow wheels are striking, the starlight glittering by. The golden frost is burning in the blue snow of the sky. The painted girls are dancing, the lights are bright like pain, and the warning hand of the darkness is the black window pane. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Words by Ivan T. Dowell. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Words. Babylon with never resting tongues, you are so full of words that you have read. Great bellies full of books, cry out your lungs. I turn to silence for a bed. My aching ears are vomiting the speech you spewed in them. Man's ears should have a flap. You munched some books, then swollen with wet words, came gurgling pap. Bawl loudly now and quickly lest you burst, and that red tongue should fly from out your head. Tell the full matter, starting at the first. I turn to silence, being fed. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Anthology of the Lowly, continued, by Paul Eldridge. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Gander. Had I only cared to stretch my strong white neck above my wives' and sisters' heads, I could have easily become a tall swan. I believed in necks of equal size. I lived and died a gander. Goat. I budded life ceaselessly with my two strong horns. My horns broke. Life goes on, unscathed. Who is the breaker of horns? Frog. Of the silly vanity that made me puff and puff until my speckled skin burst, and I was left a shapeless spirit, I am not ashamed, but sharper than a crooked hook that pierces the belly is the bitter and constant regret that the one I wished to equal was but an ox. Goose. Now that I am dead, I may explain the mystic meaning of my ceaseless cackling. I warned the world and prophesied, the sun will drown in the puddle, the sun will drown in the puddle. I was shooed and mocked at and slaughtered. My prophecy has come to pass. The earth is a black desert, the sun lies sunken in the mud. Flea. I was the knight errant of insects. Seeking adventure, I winged my way in eager quest. Man, dog, monkey, hen, I bit them all and everywhere. I learned too late, as I was crushed between the two great thumbs of death, that all flesh tastes alike. Swan. Upon the smooth, cool lake, bordered by frail, sad willows, we sailed, slowly, dreaming, the two of us, one white, one black, breasts on breast. The world burst in flames, the willows dropped into the lake bent and plunged into a deep abyss. The white one vanished, the black is left to mourn upon the silent frozen shore of endlessness. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Morituri Agnosti by Jesse Hugo Feldman. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Peaked, drawn face, quivering lips, and dark, scornful eyes, crying silently with barbed, broken cries. A lost crane, wheeling, returning, falling, blinded with pain, circling over a slate sea through a slow, wet drizzle. You eddy forever in the damp mists of my brain. You, too, I pray, sometime I shall forget. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. While I Talked by Oscar Williams. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Across your face glimmered my words, like shadows of low-flying birds, until I was struck dumb to see how strangely looking out on me, a silence waited in your eyes, patient and sorrowful and wise. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Grist by Ivan T. Dowell. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Love upsets a man. Marriage stands him on his head. Divorce shakes him down. As a child he loved to set off rockets at the moon. When he grew up he loved to read poems to a beautiful girl. The trouble is not that people fall in love, but that they usually dive in where it is so awfully shallow. It is better to remain single and possess many dreams than to marry a vision and sleep by yourself. Think twice before falling in love with a married woman. Her husband might die. A rash marriage is only skin deep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Underworld Note by Maxwell Bodenheim. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Underworld Note. I know a woman in Chicago who drinks a pint of whiskey every night and gambles against hilarity, risking the tinsel cloudiness of her infant heart. Demons lurk in her dimples. Her eyes are tortured babies. Her mind is a series of lifeless abortions preceded by thrusts of pain. The fingers of men have tapped drumbeats of reality on her face. Beneath an electric light she drinks her pint of whiskey every night, like one who endures an imbecile's caress while waiting for her master. His foot sound on the white-tiled floor will hold the musical effect of a blow, tantalizing her body. Throughout the night she has been an interrupted caper, waiting for its orchestra of pain. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Off by Marks G. Sable. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. The amphigoric legend of a popular refrain, vivid people dancing on a pier, many twitching stars and a quick, lean rain of wind. Oh, come, my dear! Charlie has a party on. We're going up the beach. Shake that boob and come with us. A livid moon like a bloated leech. And black, black water, thunderous. A long white stretch of glittering sand. And the put-put-put of a busy exhaust. 4 white circles. Where you got your hand? A stab of wind and a holocaust of dunes and palms and short-clipped words of hair and coats and pattering foam. The lighthouse huddles like a nigger gnome, and the stars fly past us, silver birds. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. At St. Roch's Chapel by Edna Adelaide Strauss. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Burn a candle to St. Roch, and for your heart's wish pray, and it will surely come to pass, or so they say. But oh, be careful what you ask, so if your wish come true, anticipation has not staled reality for you. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Ruins by Paul Eldridge. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Ruins. Gray and black rats swing upon the rope, and the weary bell bends and rings, clang, clang. The rusty tongue breaks the intricate bars of the spider, subtle jailer, and strikes drearily a paralytic tune. Clang, clang. An old woman on the roadside kneels and mutters, "Lord, have mercy." Gray and black rats swinging on a rope, and a dead bell ringing, and a dead god crumbling above a broken altar. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Art by Cale Young Rice. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. An invisible worker drives gray nails of rain drenchingly into the earth. He is building floors of grass and pavilions of trees, to be hued a little hence with the breath of blossoms. He is shaping his house of life. I had rather build a blade of grass than self-entombing pyramids. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Sarah Three Needles, Boston, 1698, by Catherine Lee Bates. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. By the grim grace of the Puritans she had been brought into their frigid meeting-house to list her funeral sermon before the rope ran taut, soft neck that he had kissed. Through the narrow window her dazed blue eyes could see the rope. Like a glittering icicle it hung from the horror cross-beam of the horrible gallows tree, his arms about her flung. 2 captive Indians and 1 Guinea slave, hating at heart the merciless white god, in the stubborn ground were hacking her shallow grave. Sweet April path they trod. Her shivering neighbors thrilled to the fierce discourse of the minister, who thundered the dire sting of a sinner's death till his vehement voice went hoarse. She heard love's whispering. And still she stood while the frozen communion bread that the preacher broke ere he poured the chilly wine rattling into the plates her judges fed. Her food was more divine. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Five Inconsequential Charms by Elizabeth J. Coatsworth. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Charm for a Silver Spoon. Spoon, O spoon, wrought from thin silver, bright as a small moon, drollest and most companionable of all utensils of the housewife's table, be serviceable beside my cup of tea, and by the fire share bread and milk with me. Charm for running water, hesitator, faltering from pool to pool, leaping like a child or a fawn among the rocks, leaf dappled, wild and sweet, turn not from us languid with summer. Charm on making a bed. With sheets cool and smooth I bid you bring rest, with the fleece of soft blankets lap warmly the spirit, with the quaintness of quilts give whimsical dreams. Charm for the disreputable crows. Crow, crow, ironic and rusty, raucous voiced, heavy winged, tattered and dusty, tramp bird, scamp bird, I beg you to fly in grotesque grandeur against my sky. Charm for a jar. All the flowers of the garden, fresh from dew and slant of sunlight, fresh from song and the loam's clinging, beg your kindness, foster mother. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Babblers by Martha Banning Thomas. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Babblers. They said that she was cold. I watched them say it. Their sly tongues coiled around the word and licked it furtively. They said that her aloofness was an art, practiced imperially. They shattered all her beauty into bits, and with their heels crushed out the iridescence. This was their sole retaliation against a fear of her and what they could not understand. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Garbage Heap by Maxwell Bodenheim. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Garbage Heap. The wind was shrill and mercenary, like a sodden housewife pacing down the sky. Green weeds and tin cans in the yard made a debris of ludicrous dissipations. The ochre of cold elations had settled on the cans. Their brilliant labels peeped from the weeds, like the remains of a charlatan. A bone reclined against a fence post and moodily congratulated life. A woman's garter wasted its faded frills upon a newspaper argument. The dismal rancor of boxes and bottles spoke to the spirit of the yard. Contented or incensed, the wreckage stood in the twilight, one shade below the sardonic. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Nocturne by Louis Gilmore. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Was it the oysters or the insidious influence of the moon? Heavenly bodies in conjunction at any rate, and at dawn the inexorable dirty yellow. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Earth's Fingers by Don Pops. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. dependable, even poplars, moody, rheumatic oaks, frail, pale willows with lacy tendrils tapering like a Chinaman's nail, grown up from earth's black skin. What mingling atoms in the pot of time have united to fashion such delicately different fingers on the hand of earth. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Stigma by Emmy Veronica Sanders. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Stigma. Outside there is a chill rain falling, and a wind keeps shaking the bare old tree, but the child poring over the big red book does not see. The gray rain does not hear the wind calling. The child is lying in front of the fire, head propped on small frail hands, straining its eyes in the dull glow of the fire over stories of far-away people in marvelous lands. Anger is forgotten in the fierce sting of pain. The child, in its hidden nook, has entered its own safe world again, the world that lives in the old red picture book. The people in the books, they seem to know those things at which the real people laugh and sneer, things that subtly come and suddenly disappear, like the breath of a flower or little clouds drifting or melting snow. The people in the books, they understand those things without a name or well-known shape, like the shape of a ball or your body, and how they escape when you try to touch them with words, the way you touch the kitten with your hand. They live inside of you somewhere, and they like best to come and play at dusk by the coal fire, or at dawn when you open your eyes to see bright, beautiful colors in the skies, or when you listen to music or water lapping or words like Mandalay. People in books never hurt those strange, wonderful things that you must hide. Why do the real people hurt them then? And the loud, real things that live outside? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Song by Glenn Ward Dressbach for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Compare love to the seasons, if only to retain The sense of strange departures, of things that come again. Love's spring is a moment's laughter, the glimpse of a blossomy gown in distance, and then seeking through blossoms, drifting down. Summer and autumn and winter one day of love may know, fruit and the bright leaves falling, and the first chill of snow. But what gives love its splendor is something lost one spring, a lure of elusive rapture, and dreams remembering. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Quintillion, a Ballad by Edmund Wilson, Jr. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. 1. Quintillion walked on the Quirinal. Rome was crashing to decay. The tilted shadows of the cypress notched the Appian Way. Quintillion, in mild elation, pondered a peroration. 2. Quintillion walked among the quince buds. Roman order collapsed. The catacombs beneath his tread hid churches crudely apsed. Quintillion, in a tempered glee, plotted a shrewd peripety. 3. Quintillion enjoyed the quince buds, which he couldn't distinguish from peach. He was brooding on Ascendaton, Astyanax, and other figures of speech. Nero and his sycophants were violating their uncles and aunts. 4. Quintilian mused on a ruined quern. The barbarians gathered like thunder. Nobody came to warn Quintilian to stand out from under. The skies with triple bolts were torn, and calves with 15 feet were born. 5. The waters drove, the dike burst. Quintilian was crushed like a quince, leaving nothing but his immortal works, which nobody has read since. At least, neither I nor Dr. Bishop has yet, nor has anybody else in our set. 6. All things, alas, like shadows fly. Quintilian, Nero, Rome, Quince buds, Ascendaton, and I, to dust and ash must come. Yet suns still shine and quince buds bloom again, to light the loves and lives of other men. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Centaurs by Elizabeth J. Coatsworth. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. The Centaurs. Summer. Out along the wet, clinging sands we gallop, throwing a mist of flying grains behind us, splashing into the water, cool and green, dipping hands under the swaying surface to throw over heaving sides, letting the bubble-crested waves fling their spray into our faces ere we walk back with streaming fetlocks wringing the water from our hair into the hidden green of the forest. Flight. Clatter and clash of galloping small hoofs over the stones and roots between the trees, whipping of yellow hair frantic across straining shoulders, rhythmic flexing of haunches, streaming of tail, and behind the thunder, thunder, thunder of great black hoofs, and sibilant breathing and outstretched knotted hands. Death. The blood that drips down to the grass from my wounded side hangs on the blades like small, heavy scarlet flowers, a pathway to death, along which my hoofs stumble. And still on my sweating hair lies the garland of hawthorn, and still on my cheeks a red which is not the red of blood. But my sinews and bones bend with the weight of this one light arrow hard driven through my side, and I stumble along the red-flowered path of my death. End a poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Locution de Perrault, translated from the French of Jules Laforgue by Hart Crane. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. 1. Your eyes, those pools with soft rushes, O prodigal and wholly dilatory lady, come now, when will they restore me the orient moon of my dapper affections? For imminent is that moment when, because of your perverse austerities, my crisp soul will be flooded by a languor bland as the wide gaze of a Newfoundland. Ah, madam, truly it's not right, when one isn't the real Gioconda, to adaptate her methods and deportment, for snaring the poor world in a blue funk. 2. Ah, the divine infatuation that I nurse for Cydalise, now that she has fled the capture of my lunar sensibility. True, I nibble at despondencies among the flowers of her domain, to the sole end of discovering what is her unique propensity, which is to be mine, you say? Alas, you know how much I oppose a stiff denial to postures that seem too much impromptu. 3. Ah, without the moon, what white nights, what nightmares rich with ingenuity! Don't I see your white swans there? Doesn't someone come to turn the knob? And it's your fault that I'm this way, that my conscience sees double, and my heart fishes in troubled water, for Eve, Gioconda, and Delilah. Oh, by the infinite circumflex of the arch beam of my cross-legged labors, come now, appease me just a little with the why and wherefore of your sex. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Euthanasia by Alan Tate. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Euthanasia. No more the white refulgent streets, never the dry gutters of the mind, shall he in hellish boredom walk again, for death is not unkind. The graceless madness of her lips, who was the powder puff of life, cannot rouge those cheeks, nor warm his cold corpuscles back to strife. What did he gain? What did he lose? These questions for the pious dead are blown from bosoms of kind souls, a scented sorrow, corseted. High up above our busy heads, busied with gullets gorging dimes, we raise him to a grinning sky, shouting his praise 100 times. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Beth Marie by William Alexander Percy. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Beth Marie. Impatiently she drew her breath, so new was life, so wild. But patiently she waited death, and when he touched her smiled. She who had never wished to die, who had such fear of pain, was tranquil as an evening sky that flowers from spent rain. For us her loss was different from all we could suppose. The calm of Spartan stars she lent, who only seemed a rose. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
An Old Man Dreams by Walter McClellan. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. There's beauty in the mind beyond the moment's glow. In the mind of an old man the 1880s flow. In beauty of racing horses, young bawds have beauty where his memories are blown as leaves upon the air. Oh, passionately he would be his own young self and stream out of the house of his mind and out of an old man's dream. And now he is at the door when leaves all suddenly curl to the round of a bitter mouth and the bitter eyes of a girl. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. She Sews by Harold Vinall. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. She's always mending aprons or making bits of lace. She hasn't time to look out at a passing face. The lads of Camden are nothing to her, only the sound of needles or the wheel's whir. She was born a dreamer, but she never leaves her room. She sweeps up the thread ends with a little broom, and what she is thinking and what she knows is less than the sound of the wind when it blows. She was born a gypsy, but she never seeks the road, Nor follows after pipers with a gypsy load. Neither moon or water makes her catch her breath. Perhaps she knows that love is as hard as death. She's always mending aprons or making bits of lace. She hasn't time to look out at a passing face. The lads of Camden are nothing to her. Only the sound of needles or the wheels whir. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Celine by Joseph Campbell. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Celine. 1. The moon rose up. The moon rose up in a dove-winged sky. The wafer moon went drifting by. The dove-wing deepened into blue. The moon turned silver, the stars looked through. Black tufted fir boughs blown to flame By the gusty wind that went and came, Till the sea, unseen in the gathering night, Strewed the distance with crest of white. What though the like had fallen before? I knelt to beauty and shut my door. 2. Into the gathered cornfields. Into the gathered cornfields the moon comes red and round. The night bee passes with a low humming sound. On the silent shore the ebb tide drowses. Dusk like a dream lies over the farmhouses. The wind barely stirs the dew-heavy fern. The fox has stolen from the cairn. Sleep claims the tillage, rock land and the unknown sky, Where the gay northern lights pale now and die. Pale now and die as the red moon pales, Whitening, dwindling the higher it sails. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Fruits of Circumstance by Chang Chu Ling. Translated by Witte Bynner and Qian Kang Hu. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Fruits of Circumstance. 1. Tender orchid leaves in spring, and cinnamon blossoms bright in autumn, are as self-contained as the spirit of life which accords them to the seasons. A forest hermit, though nobody know him, allured by sweet winds and contented with beauty, is as true to nature as a plant, which never invites you to gather it up. 2. South of the river red oranges grow, whose leaves are green all winter long, not because of a warmer soil, but because their nature bears the cold. They are suitable for honored guests, but, alas, are far over mountain and stream, and circumstance governs destiny, and cause and effect are an infinite cycle. You speak of planting peaches and plums. Would this other tree afford no shade? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Crescent Moon by Vincent Starrett. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. The sight, I think, is more than odd. Outside the roadhouse kept by God, the lounging stars with youthful din Shout down the banqueting within, and with their socialistic roar Persuade the landlord to the door. The stars with mocking laughter fly Across the prairies of the sky, While after the vexatious gang God hurls a silver boomerang. I hope it will not turn and strike A kind old gentleman I like. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. A Mask of Shadows by Arthur Symons. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Poor helpless shadow of deceit, the shadow of no magic flower, I find you, Helen, in the street, this unanointed sacred hour, here where the dust of trodden feet desecrates the street. This very hour that consecrates all that the night could never keep, menaces what our changeless fates leave to us in our dreamless sleep. Knave Menelaus desecrates the folly of our fates. Only before the night grows thin about us in our city street. What is the sin that we must sin, Helen, when dawn and darkness meet? Fine webs of passion our souls spin out of their own deceit. Oh, lie with me on the naked grass, in uttermost abandonment. Drink in the naked winds that pass, drink deep of the passion of their scent, the scent of the sea that sighs, alas, my Helen's scent. You came to me from the seventh gate of that fire-doomed and deathless Troy. O passion pale and passionate, O flesh most fair, mad to destroy, that flesh that you are mad to hate, mad to destroy. Over bright Paris lies the dust, and we are here and we must love, until our love transfigures lust, then taste the poison scent thereof, as on the gallows a man upthrust feeds on his lust. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Effort by Hortense Flexner. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. The wind will not cry out in marble, nor towers be told in music. Yet am I sculptor, forever laboring to carve the morning wind in stone, and a musician seeking vainly for sounds out of which to build my tower. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Flight of Asmodeus by Catherine Lee Bates. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. The Flight of Asmodeus. To the uttermost parts of Egypt the demon fled, over the long green Nile that writhed and quivered under his agony, like a kindred snake. The rustling reeds of papyrus bowed and shivered. Then did the moonlight pillars of Karnak quake, and deep in their pyramids moaned the mummied dead. The rebel gods, those waiting the sunrise red, twins of the desert, the crouching Sphinx, young Horus, and ancient Amen, the awful four on their throne of Abu Simbel, all in a thunder chorus called on Jehovah and chilled to colossal stone. To the uttermost parts of Egypt the demon fled. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sashira by Hazel Collister Hutchison. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Gray cities are the murmured words a garrulous old earth sometimes slips in between sharp, brittle little quips and laughter. One twilight after rain in Paris, I know she had her finger to her lips. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Portrait by William Faulkner. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Portrait. Raise your hand between us to your face, and draw the opaque curtains on your eyes. Let us walk here, softly checked with shadow, and talk of careful trivialities. Let us lightly speak at random. Tonight's movie, repeat a broken conversation, word for word, of friends and happiness. The darkness scurries, and we hear again a music both have heard, singing blood to blood between our palms. Come, lift your eyes, your tiny scrap of mouth, so lightly mobile on your dim white face. Aloofly talk of life, profound in youth, and simple also. Young and white and strange, you walk beside me down the shadowed street. Against my hand your small breast softly lies, and your laughter breaks the rhythm of our feet. You are so young, and frankly you believe this world, this darkened street, this shadowed wall, are dim with beauty you passionately know, cannot fade nor cool nor die at all. Raise your hand, then, to your scarce seen face, and draw the opaque curtains on your eyes. Profoundly speak of life, of simple truths, the while your voice is clear with frank surprise. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Ultimately, by Ernest M. Hemingway. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. He tried to spit out the truth, dry-mouthed at first. He drooled and slobbered in the end, truth dribbling his chin. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Nightingale by Richard Aldington. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Nightingale. Night winds beat my naked flesh, waves of air rush over me. The young moon stands among frozen clouds. Far off as death burn the ice sparkles which are stars. A wall of rough black pines cuts the pale sky. Your voice, ah, chastest, coldest thing. The brief chill clang of ice on glass, the note of fragile metal sharply struck, the lapse of waters. Ah, virginal delight, the woods hold you, and the boughs frozen with dew. This is no love song, no breath of wine and summer flowers, no murmur of desire, but such a hymn, fierce, lonely, and untamed, as the Trozenian hunter sang before the marble shrine. So wild a song once rose from the women of Artemis in some cold hidden valley where trees somberly ringed a black lake and cold mist glided as the first moon rays glittered through clouds. Those foam-frail girls Greek sailors saw beyond their prows, whose flesh was cooled by the wave's heart, whose veins ran spray of the storm, sang this song as dawn stood gray on the sea's rim. But this is no love song, no echo of kisses. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Jane Horner by Richard Kirk. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Jane Horner. She sat in a corner and never said a word, the timidest sweet soul in all creation. The Lords called her to him, which proves beyond a doubt, I think, that he doesn't care at all for conversation. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Not to a Temple Dancer by Glenn Ward Dressbach. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Not to a Temple Dancer. Not to a temple dancer in leopard skin and gold were given temple secrets, but all of them she told. The wise men in the temple found nothing they could say, but each looked at the other, and then each looked away. And not to love is given the wisest words men scrawl in temples of their yearning, but love has said all. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Mardi Gras Night, Panama, by Glenn Ward Dressbach. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Mardi Gras Night, Panama. The plumage of the jungle overgrows this town between the jungle and the sea. The tom-tom booms upon each wind that blows, and shiplights blink red eyes of wizardry. Behind the mask are faces we have known, but eyes flash lures that were not seen before. What island princess of lost ebon throne thrills with vain conquest of her tribe once more? This night revives in blood from Martinique, from all changed islands of the Caribbees, barbaric raptures hidden in the meek, deep down as treasures in the pirate seas. What madness in us answers and revives some wistfulness that haunts us all our lives. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. San Cristobal by Muna Lee. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. San Cristobal. Vivid and still is the noon. The almonds forget the breeze. Red flowers droop from the cactus hedge, red leaves from the mango trees. Incredibly blue is the sea, incredibly blue the sky, and above a wall 4 centuries old drifts a yellow butterfly. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. William Blake by Alan Tate. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. William Blake. Now William pulled the lever down, and click-clack went the printing press. William was the only printer in town who had peeped while the angels undress. Damn this unmystical sweat, quoth he. He was longing for the New Jerusalem. Now in sketching an evil spirit, let's see. Should the skirt of Lot's wife have a wine hem? And William had dudgeon for the sightless beetle, who worshipped a god like a grandmother on ice skates. For William saw 2 angels on the point of a needle, as nobody since except W.B. Yeats. He browsed in pathetic books, Jacob Boehme, and Paracelsus, which never mattered. But he mentioned the Ohio River in a poem, so Americans ought to feel flattered. William Blake cursed the flesh for a clod, yet of some of his sayings we moderns have heard tell. The nakedness of woman is the work of God, or that title, the marriage of heaven and hell. Now I don't believe William ever saw that ghost, or even the universe in a fleck of dust. But maybe I'm blind, like a soul lost, with a lot of psychoanalytic lust. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Appreciation by Richard Kirk for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Appreciation. On this side I spade and pull, on that grows grass and clover. My donkey, when his belly's full, thrusts his long face over. End a poem. This recording is in the public domain. Songs of the Seasons by Mary Austin for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Songs of the Seasons, a free rendering of an Amerindian song sequence. 1. I have mentioned all the seasons and the stars to Wawanut, all the little steadfast stars, and the walkers of the night, where the flying light of sun is caught and hidden. I have named them to Wawanut. I have named the thunder, with his moccasins of dark cloud, walking on the mountain. I have named the Tavukamal, the clean March water, washing down the last year's leaves. The little silver rains, the many-footed rains, dancing with the meadowlarks round the roots of the rainbow. 2. I have named the Pahiomal with Wawanut, when the ant has her house in her hill, when the spider opens her dew-shining door, white butterflies emerging in their spotted robes from their sacred dance enclosure, the wind tossing the white blossom cones of the chamois and the sea's white foam flowers. Now the sky is ashamed of what he did to the maiden summer. Retreating afar and on high, he tugs at the 4 world quarters. The elk brings forth in the north the wild sheep at Temukula, the horned lizard on the hot sands round Turtle Rock with his young is dancing. All these I have mentioned in my songs. I have made a twine of songs to bind them with Wawanut. 3. I have named the summer to Wawanut. I have mentioned earth's contented noises. I have named the star chief Kukulish bathing in the summer water, and lovely light left over from the evening to the morning. I have named the ripe wild oats moon white on the sea looking ranges, arrows twanging in the white oak browse, women stripping deer meat. All these I have mentioned to Wawanut, women winnowing chia. I have made them songs, with a net of songs have tied them with Wawanut. I have believed my songs. We have made the seasons and the stars work together with Wawanut. End a poem. This recording is in the public domain. Truck Drivers by Maxwell Bodenheim for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Truck Drivers. You drive your lumbering steam lorries upon the streets of London and jolt your motor trucks over the asphalt of New York. These minor shades of background, which embarrass even smaller men, have not disturbed your faces. America and England are unheard jests to your faces as you tensely wrestle with your street. Let me take you to a side lane where the traffic is thin, where your grins can barter with remnants of mind and heart left by the strain and snarl of your days. There I see the features of decaying children, eyeballs, lips, and cheeks sundering under the lack of anticipation. Your obvious martyrdom bears no light at present. It will only shine when men from another planet speculate upon the dead moon that once was Earth. End a poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Rubies of Cleopatra by Victor Oscar Freeberg. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. The Rubies of Cleopatra. We are rubies on a long string, owned by the Theatrical Costume Company. Long days together, sometimes weeks, we lie huddled in a dark drawer, touching cold wood only, and each other. Then we yearn for the feel of palpitating flesh. Suddenly comes New Year's Eve. Miss Portia Worthington spreads out $10 on the counter, and we are snatched up to go with her Cleopatra costume. Oh, joy! Warm adventure is waiting. At the masquerade dance of the Rotary Club, we hang, red with desire, in a double chain down Miss Worthington's 32-year-old bosom. 3 feet away stands a brawny Roman, with green leaves of cloth about his brow, and many black hairs on his legs. He comes closer. His breast touches us. The saxophone blares above the violin. We quiver and whirl with Antony and Cleopatra. We are pressed tightly, and for a joyous while feel the perspiration of 2 bodies. Then comes a whiff of cold air while the saxophone rests. Would you believe it? This is a masquerade. We discover that the Roman is only an exporter of wheat, and that Portia Worthington teaches domestic science at Teachers' College. We, the rubies of Cleopatra, glow in vain, because the price of wheat went down this afternoon to $1.04 a bushel. True, the exporter has fine legs, and therefore has come as a Roman. Portia sees them. Yet she can sit there and reason that if wheat has gone down, bread will be cheaper. The saxophone starts again. A pirate, with a knife in his teeth, comes to claim Miss Worthington. Again we pulsate red and eager. The brass ring round the pirate's forearm presses us into Portia's back. We make little dents there. He takes his knife out of his teeth and puts it into his belt. We expect a tighter embrace in the corner of the hall. His toddling boot tops patter white fox-trotting knees. Ah, leather and dimples. We twist ourselves into snaky curves on Portia's breast, awaiting red-eyed piracy of love. What a perfect masquerade! The pirate is a young dentist, anxious to build up practice. He hadn't known exactly what to wear to the Rotary Club's dance, and Portia remembers silently a lot of things about the care of toothbrushes. What a night for us, the rubies of Cleopatra! Mephistopheles approaches, but Portia turns away, perhaps because he is too deep through the middle. Robin Hood tries in vain to get her eye. Ah, well, there are wrinkles in his green tights. Then suddenly comes warm adventure. A regular He-Man, disguised in black suit and queer white collar, and making his cheeks look long. A country parson. But we and Portia can see something in his eye which does not go with the gospel. The violin is alluring now, and stronger than the saxophone. In a waltz there is hot harmony between Portia and the parson. He slides his breast downward, not by accident, and stretches us tight into her neck. He slides upward again, and we roll redly between a black coat and a silken garment. Portia tingles and rejoices that her legs are bare. Her anklets tinkle, and we glow expectantly. Then the violin is silent, and we are in a dark alcove. We learn that the parson is a vaudeville actor by profession. He is not afraid. How gladly We ripple through his fingers, while the backs of them caress Portia gently where the breasts turn. He insists that she must wear us over the hips. It is more Egyptian. She yields and lets him drape us there, high on one side and low on the other. Oh, joy! But far-sprung desire bends back against Portia's training. She cannot shut out a sudden vision of the most scientific way to fold sheets over the corner of a mattress. "Queen of the Nile!" cries the parson. We pulsate red with remembrance. "Let me be your Marcus Aurelius." He spoils it purposely because he has a wife on the floor, as well as a true mistress, and even a vaudeville actor must be discreet. The masquerade never ends. At 3 in the morning we are in Portia's room. She tears off her costume and does not see where it falls. The footsteps in the hallway tell of a male neighbor just returning. The shades are down. She tilts the bureau mirror and can see her whole body, perfectly bare and beautiful. But we are more red. She winds us around her hips, high on one side and low on the other, as the parson had taught her. She sways madly and whirls to get a full view in the mirror. We swing out dizzily and, by accident catching the alarm clock, throw it upon the Cleopatra costume on the floor. Too late! Too late! What can we do now against a character trained at Teachers' College? Miss Portia Worthington sets the alarm clock and remembers that this year she will be 33. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Parthenia by Alan Tate, for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Parthenia. With pale green hopes and the gay colors flying of the rich shores that girded their dark land, they burst into the temple where lay dying an unknown virgin gutted by her own hand. The shout went up like a half-strangled song, cutting the noonday languor into shreds. The mob rushed out again and smote the gong, bearing the phallus over their febrile heads. Still, at her feet, the thin-lipped lover prayed, beating his anguish on a tympanum, as in and out among the few that stayed wandered the priest's voice from the adytum. Lay now the grape and the bright leaves of sorrow upon the altar beside her bloody hair. Wash clean your hands and hearts, that no tomorrow may find her unforgiven or unfair. The god has not yet answered to our pity for the black vision entangled in her brains, nor is there knowing soever in the city of the red histories that throbbed in her blue veins. Then, as the twilight clutched a single star, cold wonder drove the mourners on their way. All, for the riddle, swore to roam afar, scourging the night and gathering the day. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Greetings from Confucius by Paul Eldridge, for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Greetings from Confucius. From Kong Fu Tse, frozen dust, to his countless lovers, agitated dust, the difference between the good conduct and the bad is the perfumed wind a laughing courtesan stirs gently with her jeweled fan to right or left. And the true and the false are the trembling shadows of a candle flickering at an open window. Drink deeply, then from your cups of jade have many concubines with small hard breasts, which crash within your warm, eager hands. Smoke slowly your long ivory pipes, and write thoughtless poems on lustrous silk. To the river gliding over stones like a white snake, to the lotus bud, to the immutable pine tree, to the wild goose dropping from the tip of his flat beak, fragile, fluttering spring. But even these do not matter, lovers of Kung Fu Tze. Life is a large handful of thin-grained dust, blown merrily, swiftly, by the pouting lips of someone. The lips close. The dust stiffens and chills like a bar of iron in winter. But even this does not matter. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Mercutio by Harry Allen Potemkin for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Mercutio. Mercutio the artist sits in his dustbin, making love to the moths that circle in through the cracked pane of the lone window. Mercutio makes love to the white moths. He catches them and pats them gently, gently, brushes the powder from their wings, and tears them bit by bit. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
San Antonio by John Gould Fletcher for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. When a dry rain of mandolins, dancing and fluttering, beats on the stiffened tuberoses that hold up their chaste wax-white chalices, chilled to the breeze of the night that runs out of red-gullied hills and creaks in the pomegranate bushes that flare out in startling scarlet down the gravelled avenue, I will look up to the sky and see the long trail of the Milky Way rolling southwestward, and I will dream only of you. Slowly the moon passes, a lithe brown flute player, lazily blowing his melancholy song on streets where dust rises and settles. Slowly the red earth cracks, and the yellow fronts of the houses stare into silence. Slowly life rolls a shallow and straggling brown river, unhurried from dream toward dream. When a loud wind runs laughing and clattering from the pinyon-clad heights to the westward, and the riders of old mount and follow, bronze shapes, sunken cheeks, and lean muscles, flapping their hats as they spur their ponies on. When the silent brown aisles give up the old monks that once walked there, and the buffalo herds stamp again on the free wide prairie, I shall return in the dawn. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Emperor Tang, Skeptic by Paul Eldridge for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Closer than my body's shadow follows the blind nameless one, carrying in his tightened yellow fist Time, the thin spluttering candle, and in his swollen cheeks Death, the gray wind. So fill and refill my deep golden horn with the strongest wine, O wise men of China, before declaiming in magnificent verse my immortality, that I may nod, my eyes glittering with dreams, and believe. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Solitaire by Emmy Veronica Sanders for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922 by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by D. Randall. In the evenings, I sit and play solitaire. I light the candle so as to have the shadows on the wall for company and make things speak to me. The incandescent globe that is attached to the center of the ceiling I do not like to use. It kills the life of the things in the room, being dead itself. It speaks with the loudness of dead obtrusive weights. In it, I cannot hear my thoughts. When the candle is lit, all things begin to move and whisper. I shuffle the cards, making neat little piles of them. I play with the cards and with my thoughts. Of my thoughts, too, I make neat little piles, shifting and shifting them. My thoughts are as silent and swift as shadows on the wall. Words, the bodies of thoughts, are stiff and inflexible. You cannot alter them once they are there. They always keep exactly the same shape and weight and color, like the substance of the things from which shadows proceed. But thoughts and the shadows themselves can expand and contract, grow lighter and darker, take on 100 varying moving shapes. My hand is only my hand, always. But the thought of my hand, or the shadow it throws on the wall, can become anything or nothing, grotesque or beautiful, the size of a pinprick or a gaping monster. I can do whatever I like with it. My hunch, too, is always there, for I am hunchback. It is always the same protuberance of flesh and bone, never changing size or shape. Only my thought about it varies. And if I keep a certain posture and hold the candle in a certain way, and then look at my shadow on the wall, it ceases to be there entirely. That is why I like the thinking about things better than the things themselves. It is quite a fortunate circumstance when you are crippled and must earn your living, as I do, by embroidering. Thinking, too, is a kind of embroidering. You add little ornaments, flowery figures, glittering stuff, little meandering lines and loops and arabesques to plain material of a few facts or a few truths that are either black or white or somewhere in between the black and white. Thus, in the daytime, I embroider. At night, I shuffle cards and play with shadows. On the whole, I am rather content. And then, when Sunday comes, I read the papers. That almost fills the day. The picture section shows the people that are doing things and having things all over the world. There are men with beautiful bodies wrestling on platforms before highborn spectators. There are men who set out on daring expeditions to far countries. There are pictures of fine women and their little children, frail and fresh like flowers with the morning sun upon them. There are strong faces of the owners of magnificent estates and bank accounts, and famous actresses and authors. There are pictures of assemblies of men governing the fate of nations, and inventors of miraculous machines, and winners of races and contests, women and men. There are pictures of the people that fill the grand tiers on gala occasions and the grandstands when there are parades, and also the photographs of happy little pet dogs that win prizes. In the fat Sunday papers, they tell you everything about the people whose bodies and whose souls never were crippled. I do not envy them. I see the bodies moving, dancing, posturing, the hands of the speakers lifted, and the fierce contortions of the limbs in sporting contests, and the cool smiles of women safely provided for. I fancy I can hear the words they speak, the little sounds that come out of the soft red cavity that is their mouth. And I keep wondering about the shadows they would throw in narrow rooms by candlelight, how they would dwindle, grow, and vacillate and be grotesque as my hunch. I also wonder what the thoughts are behind the loud, bright words they speak, the swift and silent games inside the skull wall, all over and around each little fixed and given fleshy word. No, I'm not dissatisfied. I earn my living cleanly, stitching gaudy things on black and white. I have my solitaire. There are times when my hunch seems a blessing to me, a blessing like all final and unalterable things, like being in prison or dead, something about which there is nothing to be done or changed or desired anymore. Those poor people in the Sunday papers must go on desiring and desiring all their lives, the many, many things that are within their reach. There is no finality for them, no resignation. And then there are those others that carry a hunch on the back of their souls. That is not final either, for they might shake it off if they only knew how. And so they go on trying and trying. But mine is peace, by birthright. The little shadows know it too. They come and play so softly, so silently, along the floor and walls. They steal onto the table. They never interfere with little games of cards or thoughts. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Dixie by John Gould Fletcher for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Dixie. Fierce, nervous, galloping tune, to which gray armies danced to death, bearing a broken flag as a proud jest, up to the unleashed guns, you leap into my heart with flash of dogwood, trills of mockingbirds, and white magnolia cups abrim with light above dark, glossy leaves. When I am dead, somewhere a band will play you still. Somewhere a horse will paw the earth and snort. Somewhere a crowd will start the rebel yell. For in a last long rally, I too have fought and failed. I too have followed phantoms of starved hope and reeled back broken from the battlefields of hell. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Albert Perkins by Benjamin Tom for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Pigwidgeons, it is rumored, aren't. Dwerger and Troll and Loup-Garou, men depose are fabulous nonsense. That is, Albert, men like you. Will-o'-the-Wisp and Jen and Banshee, Flibbertigibbet and Nis and Dive. Certainly none of these nursery fictions men like you believe. How is it then, grave skeptical Albert Perkins, you have fallen thrall to this quite absurd, well, lady, who doesn't exist at all. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Mouse Hunt by Freeman Pinckney Smith for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. 1. There's a mouse in my granary, there's a mouse in my bin, and I'll call all my retainers, dogs, cats, and serving men. 2. He called all his retainers. They hunted from cellar to loft, but never a mouse they found in manor house or in croft. 3. I'll call in my carpenter, I'll call in my smith, to see if we can't trap him, all his kin and his kith. 4. The traps were made, the traps were set, but the mouse he abideth in my lord's house yet. 5. For in my lord's heart was hidden a secret so close and so deep, that only a mouse could find it, the place of his storehouse and keep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Reflected by Hortense Flexner for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Reflected. The moon's a corpse, frozen and still, she drifts in silvery ashes through the night. And yet this earth, still fretted with a scarlet pulsing thing called life, draws from the moon's pale glamour and decay her eerie trick of loveliness. What welter of hot passion and new blood! End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Walking in an Inland City by George O'Neill for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Monotonous, unfertile street, people and trees as dull as rust, ablaze and shimmering of heat, cars clattering through clouds of dust. Oh, sea wind, bitter in the sedge, green wave with the foaming edge. Buildings that hunch and brood and stare, windows to let the darkness out, doors, cornices, and chimneys square, signs that grimace and grin and shout. Tall Greek columns as pure as snow, supporting nothing in a row. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Hourglass by Hortense Flexner for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by D. Randall. Mine is to experience, as an hourglass to time. The very sand that measures the moments dribbles away. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Things for Granted by Richard Kirk for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by D. Randall. I take things for granted now, without more ado, growing in my easy way, as great a fool as you. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Stucco on Stone by Edmund Wilson, Jr. for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. To J.P.B. 1. By summer seas that lull your flight, by drowsy shores serenely old, in gleaming towns of rose and white, you will find bodies burnt to gold. There where the waves are brought to heel, there where the Alps, no longer free, Come down like elephants to kneel Beside the glazed and azure sea. Or parch for yellow, rose and red, Where madder rose and yellow rot, Gay drooping palaces that wade Green waters odorous and hot. II. Yes, you will find the silver tinselled night The mirror of the east that takes her hue, But I, the dusky toned, the dry, the brown, But I, the city crowned with that clear light Which roofs the streets with crystal white and blue And cuts the cypress black above the town. That clearest light which, biting the straight stone, The low domed hills clipped sharp the cliffs of hell, That pure and candid radiance, bright to blind, Which brims the valley, where a vision alone That fled like snow, too infinite to tell, Or like the Sibyl's leaves before the wind. III. Florence or Nancy? Nancy doubly cold. Ah, still in dreams I ride again, as once, The northern roads, and late re enter there. Below, white August clouds with rounded bellies, The great high thin ribbed gates of black and gold, And stand in the wide 18th century square Beneath stone urns atop grey yellow fronts. Yes, still I seek down vistas of calotte, With yellow leaves along the linden alleys, Old houses in a sober brass trimmed row, Leaf freshened courts, clear windows long and low, And the grey ancient gods that bear About their battered empty pods The 18th century on pose and face In fresh indelible grace. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To a Roadrunner by Glenn Ward Dresbach. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. O bird of lonely trails that end in haze, you have been given speed, and you are friend to riders down these opal-tinted days, less lonely for you. But to what an end leads all your swiftness with no place in mind? A whimsy to be speeding just ahead of something else, with nothing there to find, may leave you poor as anything you led. There is a madness in you that is known to dreamers on the lonely trails where thought speeds on from darkly moving shadow thrown upon the sands behind, and so uncaught turns off at last into a quiet place, long thrilled, perhaps, with nonsense of the race. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Optimist by Edward Sapir. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Kicked in the belly by the gentleman of fate. Ah, yes, he says, I am a kettle drum. I mark the rhythm of the universal symphony. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Tragedy by Paul S. Nickerson. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. The sunlight presses against the soji, but only my old husband enters here. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Storm Ending by Jean Toomer. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Thunder blossoms gorgeously above our heads, great hollow bell-like flowers rumbling in the wind, stretching clappers to strike our ears, full-lipped flowers, bitten by the sun, bleeding rain, dripping rain like golden honey, and the sweet earth flying from the thunder. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Resurrection by Paul Eldridge for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Within the cavernous, shadow-filled orbits of a saint's skull, unearthed by the greedy snouts of hungry jackals, two fireflies, startled, beating in terror their luminous wings. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Cynic by H. Underwood Hoyt. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. The Cynic. He was so lonely that the lonely stars leaned down from their cold homes to pity him. And yet he could not weep. He was too frail to endure the blessed, bitter balm of tears. So he turned to laughter, as they laugh who are too clever to be wise, too small to hold the weight of sorrow and be kind. He laughed so well, he sang so cleverly, no one could guess his heart's sure loneliness. Even the stars forgot him before long, for they grew drunk with laughing at his song. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Voice of Death by Oscar Williams. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. The Voice of Death. The voice of death is wisdom through all things, telling the granite where to wear and crumble, the little sparrow how to preen its wings, the lightning fangs to flash before the rumble. And yet his wisdom is a secret grace. To us who plow the hours for light and bread, all beauty is the hiding of his face, all living is the listening for his tread. But when our eager listening grows numb, and he has snapped our taut anxieties, we do not even know that he has come, but lean against the dust of centuries, eager, as ever, in a world apart, and listen for the beating of his heart. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Storm Ending by Jean Toomer. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. Thunder blossoms gorgeously above our heads, great, hollow, bell-like flowers, rumbling in the wind, stretching clappers to strike our ears, full-lipped flowers, bitten by the sun, bleeding rain, dripping rain like golden honey, and the sweet earth flying from the thunder. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Revisitants by Margaret Whittemer. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. We who went where Dante went and Persephone, you can know us by the bent brow and shadowy, by the eyes that still would dream through your loudest word, of the kindness in some stream or some singing bird. Soft our words to all who live, courteously we go, there's so little to forgive knowing what we know. Yet have patience if we stare at your whimpering crowd, where the 9 great circles were, no man cried aloud. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Incurable Mystic Answers Western Ambitions by Maxwell Bodenheim. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. The incurable mystic answers Western ambitions. Western men, your life is a minor rhapsody for flute and violin. With sounds now shrill, now suave, you steal your hymns and frolics from the surface dirt of realism and the curves of sensuality. Your feeble mysticism strains at the task of lifting tables and placing naive retorts into the mouths of spirits. Your erudition is the vain gesture of your repentance grown over thin and complex. Western men, you are beggars devouring bits of guile tossed from a violent mirage. The contours of a rose bribing the quiet madness of evening with cunning promises of red are more important than your sweating love and the rushing dreads of your marketplaces. The contours of a rose will still arrange their subtle dream when your clever schemes of mud win the drifting pension of dust. Your charts and diagrams are merely a ragmuffin's initials cut into an ancient gateway that guards the invisible meaning of life. End a poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Conscience by Edgar Boutwell. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. Fleeing from a destroyed house, I was a jongleur riding on 2 white horses. I entered a strange city, hoping to evade my pursuers. But a messenger came running after me, crying aloud to the city, "I know him who is fleeing on white horses before you." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Apparitions by Maurice Lessman. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Apparitions. Well, maybe you do find white horses standing by the seas, or white unicorns. But when I was coming from Golden across the Ortiz, riding into the ravine just past the divide, I met 13 red steers. And they all had the same white faces and the same horns. And all the white faces bent sullen to the same side, with each left forefoot forward in the same stare, all down that line. And 13 surly backs all sagging a little, and not a stir in the air. Not a stir of whiskered bellies or rough wild hair, only the steam from wet nostrils waiting for a sign. And not a stir from the horse or the man, till suddenly they broke and scrambled and ran. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Tomb of a Ming Poet by Arthur Davison Ficke. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Once he upraised a clear, triumphant voice, witnessed the glory of the primal cause, bade men who suffered forthwith to rejoice, and gravely took the emperor's grave applause. Now bronze and marble testify his worth, serving the noblest in both God and men. He wrote, "All things on earth are best for earth." The emperor marveled, and threw down his pen. I watched today the solemn, delicate fall of scattering autumn leaves above his tomb. The priest said, "This approach of noble gloom cannot obscure his greatness after all." And in the empty night that followed after, I went away and laughed hyena laughter. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The End by Oscar Williams. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Shempf. When all is over, and all the tired hearts of earth follow the beckoning hands of trees waving out of the cool darkness, when all is over, beauty alone shall roam beneath the sky, and not the huge and prowling dinosaurs. There shall be wild, strange music forevermore, and sails of woven moonlight blowing by along a misty twilight, and there shall pour down through blue space a golden rain of stars. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Corimba by Donald Davidson for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Corimba has bound no snood upon her yellow hair, but better so, no doubt, since the pale youths look elsewhere, at sleek curves and proud glitter and flesh powdered and bare. She has gone with a jaded youth to a sudatorium. The sweating there is of movement to a cacophonic drum. The bodies flex, the arms twine in rhythmic delirium. Her limbs seem delicate for labors such as these. Does her plasm breed tocsin from phonic ecstasies? At the small hours, the gaudy hours, she projects new mysteries. Who shall say in mockery cheeks were too hotly flushed, or that knee still touched too closely after the drum was hushed? Over her eyes certain and trance-like beauty has brushed. She has heard a silvery jangle from the slight harps of the moon, the maddening sistrum shaken for Isis's warm commune, seen arms lifted, bosoms bared, in far other brigadoon. Has of old spun tinkling feet in a fearful sacred way down the dark aisle where Shiva nods to his trembling ballet, till the gongs peal and the priests come, and Shiva breathes on clay. Corimba has not rejected familiarities. It is past noon. She dozes, with half-drawn-up knees, thinking of new stockings and other such verities. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Dryad by Donald Davidson for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. The choric beauty of the stars enmeshed her wasting soul by night. Her heart went hungering on the winds, the city's straitened acolyte. Her hopes mirrored at the gingham counter, her loveliness that was unspent, uncloaked them in her innocent eyes, a wild unshameful armament. She saw the fawn's ears in his hair, beneath a leghorn latest cut, and goat legs underneath his suit, crooked with a strangely familiar strut. She heard an oaten pipe, a shout of old delirious satyrs' laughter. And when the slim youth beckoned her, her prancing senses drew her after. She found what cities could not give, bare beauty by a careless pool. She lost? That is for reasoners and titillators of the school. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Arrestment by Leslie Nelson Jennings for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Arrestment. I will no longer seek. I am tired and blind. My hands are shadows that the shadows bind. And yet, each year the blind leaves push and peer from iron boughs. I cannot say the trees have sought or ceased, or known uncertainties. I sent myself too far, perhaps. I found there is no way to follow to its star the light that breaks in crystal on the ground. There are no distances. I cannot see beyond the line of poplars at my door. All is a mist, a grey vacuity. And now the tremulous poppers bud once more. It is like music, like a pastoral horn sounding across old chasms. There is born a delicate color somewhere in my brain, an ecstasy made clear and visible. The poplars draw their rigid parallel against the grey. But I have travelled far to trace all starshine to a single star. Beauty is but a sickness of the mind. And yet I cannot say the trees have sought or ceased, or known uncertainties, or answer what the roots of poplars find. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Sword Converses with a Philosopher by Maxwell Bodenheim. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Sword. The Hindu raises his arms and holds them level with his shoulders till they become still and permanent like horizons, but I prefer to stumble into abrupt harmonies that must ever be flung aside. With one quick slash I cut lips of death upon an expressionless breast, and a vermilion sincerity pardons the sophistry of flesh. It is better to make and leave the moments of a poem than to erect an ingenious pedestal upon which blindness solemnly squats. Philosopher. Men's tongues are slow, and they have made you to avenge their hidden shame at this. You give startling girdles to virgins, red beards to thieves, and writhing necklaces to children, because the tongues of men are slow and revel in your quicker rhythms. An idiot whirls you around his head and persuades himself that he is swift. Imagination trenches his eyes, and he spreads himself flat on your blade. Sword. You are merely a dwarf with an elaborate face, drowning with imposing shrieks in an ocean that does not see you. Men hear your howls and proudly run into the waters to drown beside you. All of your words are concentrated into the glittering censure of my blade. Philosopher. Life wraps its layer of touch around one like a haunting blanket, smothering the taunting lips of a child. Curving their fingers around your hilt, men strive to purchase the triumph of an imagined escape. I teach them to plaintively weave schemes of consolation on the broad texture of their lives. You tell them to slash the fabric, reaching into the black space underneath it. You are not a symbol of cruelty. An innocent impatience sharpens the comedy of your blade. Sword. Men have only two choices: to worship idols or mimic fireflies, and I lend my strength to their choice, teaching them to abandon the harlequin raptures of words. Philosopher. You bring them yearning turbulence, and I a quick-tongued refuge. Silence will pardon both of us. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Dalliance by Paul S. Nickerson. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. The butterfly never goes straight to the heart of the lotus, even when winds are still. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Rainbow Over the Desert by Glenn Ward Dressbach. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schampf. Distant, as rains that fell upon less wistful lands, has grown an arch for beauty above these thirsting sands. For it no buds may swell, and no new leaf may stir, only it gives a splendor above things as they were. Only my heart can tell of change that I can trace in lights upon the desert's deep-lined and weary face. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Chanson d'Or by Anne Hamilton. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. I shall have a gold room when I am a queen, with a poppy perfume and a jeweled screen. You may come and see me any time you will, if you wear a green coat and a gold frill. I shall keep a black slave hidden in the wall, waiting to admit you when you come to call. And if you displease me, so that I am bored, I will have him kill you with a gold sword. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Naiad by Donald Davidson. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. Nothing could dull that magic whispering, empyreans on the river's copper slant, or hide from her the vague forms flickering in the haunted depths, darting and vigilant. Bathers ashore were cultivating a tan, the fat and the lean were gauded cap-a-pie. She thought that jerseys were not Arethusian, and a gartered limb to her was monstrosity. It irked that soggy wool kept flesh from water. What gentle hand kept plucking at her waist? She floated lithe apart, till the slow wash brought her to a hidden marge where sandspits interlaced. Dripping she stood, and madness stung her blood, and warm desire unsheathed her tender breasts. All ancient beauty sang upon the flood, and she made her beauty naked at those behests. The skittering dragon-flies beheld her lust, and her plunging whiteness deep in the green deflected. The penumbral depths received her slim trunks thrust, like lover gesturing, "Come, O long expected." The years fled back, and there was time no more. Her floating hair looped in a dark coronal. She gazed upon the heaven's infinite floor, till the world receded and left the waters thronal. A warm hand glided across her passioned breast. A seeking arm lifted her in the abyss. She saw the urgent eyes, the god's hair crest with flowering slips, and yielded to his kiss. The fat and the lean beset the dark with light, and searching voices flittered to and fro. A rustic stumbling in a sandy fight gloated upon the dead with obscene woe. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
An Old Man's Walk by Hazel Hall. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schampf. His slow feet feel along the street, upon a quest beyond his scope, and one he has forgot, his feet must blindly grope. His hands have given up, and weigh, disillusioned, on a cane, scarred with the old desires that they snatched at in vain. The question of his eye has stilled, though yet unanswered. His wet gaze is stagnant with the unfulfilled dreams of other days. And yet the quest of life concerns his tread, with effort vague and thinned as a drift of smoke that turns a little while before the wind. He moves along a darkened rim like a fisher yawning in the street, while the life that has eluded him still tempts his feet. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Three Slender Things by Adeline Katz for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Three slender things from the Irish Triads. Three slender things there are that best support the world: the slender stream of milk from dug to shining pail, the slender stalk of corn, green springing from the ground, the slender skein of thread in deftly moving hands. Three slender things, but on these life depends: the white swift fall of warm new milk, the green of corn unripened, bespeaking gold to come, and thread in nimble, ivory-like skilled hands. End a poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Research by George O'Neill for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. I give you this: a broad white sail, bellying with the west wind's thrust, catching a curve of scarlet rust from the low arc of sunken sun. The dark horizon draws its ring sharper against the pallid sky, and three white seagulls wheel and cry, arching their wings and wavering. And heaven is a dome washed pale, mistily blue, with one bright nail and one bent golden wire, and one infinite tone of quiet spun. There is a wren's quick frightened sound as earth swings to the darkened turn. And so I tell you things are round, and where the circle breaks you yearn. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Stranger by Alan Tate for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Stranger. This is the village where the funeral stilted its dusty march over deep ruts, up the hillside covered with queen's lace to the patch of weeds known finally to all. Of her virtues large tongues were loud as I, a stranger, trudged the streets gay with huckstering, loud whispers from a few sly wags who squeezed a humor from the shroud. For this was death. I should never see these men again, and yet, like the swiftness of remembered evil, an issue for conscience, say, the cold heart of death was beating in my brain, a new figuration of an old phenomenon. This is the village where women walk the streets selling eggs, breast ungathered, hands like rawhide. Of their virtues the symbol can be washtubs, but when they die it is a time of singing. And then the symbol changes with change of place. Let the wags wag as the pallbearers climb the hill. Let a new slab look off into the sunset. The night drops down with sullen grace. End a poem. This recording is in the public domain.
On the Road to Walkinsutter by John Crow Ransom for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Kevin Stewart. On the Road to Walkinsutter by John Crow Ransom. Sahara doth not keep her livid hell wholly unto herself, writes Herodoty. Sirocco scourgeth even the Greenlands well. The pulver of her brimstone itched my throat. Brady had little Latin and less Greek, not his to verify the obscure quotation, but Brady knew no waterfall nor creek, nor Arctic tremor stayed his oxidation. By 60 fiery miles they call a trail, Red Hole communicates with Wauconsutter. Here Brady, who had started on a rail, pursued his march diminishing like butter. For Brady had deployed the manifold beneath the sacred principle of Venus, but desert ladies named him greasy and old, and the empaneled peers pronounced him heinous. "She is a verity, else all is knit," cried Brady, his faith quivering with outrage, and saw the yellow-feathered pert Peewit, who flashed upon the acrid sea of sage. Noon of the second day made its ascension. The Brady marched and blistered at the goal, and the Peewit made offensive mention of words that scored the tablets of his soul. "A simple shotgun with a choke were best," says Brady, looking for a place to sit. But as long eluded of Bird Helen's breast, he adds, "Could any human engine hit?" "For you again are Venus, I suppose. I have your evidence of shape and feather, and no man more impatient ever rose to see you turn to nothing altogether. And though I had a miracle of salt to sprinkle on your saucy tilt of tail, I think I'd rather lose you in default than catch another mere obscene female." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Garrett by Marian Neven Funk for Poetry of the Double Diller, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by D. Randall. Under their leaning roof, always night came in with a low secret whir of wings aloof. Night long, without rest, something tapped at the roof when her unquiet hands were quiet on his breast. Easy enough to say, bats build under the eaves, on the roof fall the yellow leaves. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Into the Sunset by Elizabeth J. Coatsworth for Poetry of the Double Diller, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by D. Randall. For 10 miles we traveled into the sunset, under the barbaric palms that clashed their fronds from side to side, dripping light. In their shadows I saw the figures of Nubian kings, swart and shining with necklaces of bones, and on the hills I heard the bray of their trumpets. Wave by wave, at last, the tide of light drew back into the darkness, and the rising wind swept clouds and stars into our faces like leaves whirling in dust. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Hamlet by Richard Kirk for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Chris Pyle. I am Hamlet to these things of petals and of wings, poor tragic Hamlet, quite absurd to any butterfly or bird. Pale-faced Hamlet with a dead leaf, clutched to his side, he calls his grief. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Lunatic by Marjorie Allen Seifert for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Matt Pierard. My heart's a gypsy, or a lunatic. It knows no thrifty laws. It longs to scatter riches and to pick gold out of straws, to burn the amber harvest summer scent with sparks of laughter, not bed therewith the cattle of content the winter after. In June to whistle tunes with every note the blackbird knows, since in November fields my empty coat may flap at crows. Preserve forbidden fruits, hoard on a shelf their purple jelly, comfort with flavors of my summer self, my winter belly. Since virtue and old age are hard to trick with any gift, this is the wisdom of the lunatic and gypsy thrift. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Work by Edgar Boutwell. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Tom Daly. In the morning I am a lapidary, gleaning among the shard of diluvial boulders of crystal, cutting them into many-angled gems. At noon I cut diapered patterns in satin-calendared parchment to gauge them. And by their many-prismed fires deep in the night, I polish them till they sift through the patterns without breaking. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Pensée by Vincent Starrett. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Tom Daly. Great taverns for our wit were all too small in those brave days of youth, remembered well. Great were the stories that we used to tell, fired by strong cups. The stains upon the wall marked the hot crisis of some splendid brawl, as when one claimed one's verses to excel the rhymes of Dante at the gates of hell, or flung a challenge to the good St. Paul. Great were the maxims writ in debtor's chalk, while paradoxes glittered through the smoke. Epigrams suckled at the breast of scorn, crackled and mocked and slew. Oh, brilliant talk! Had we the wit to write the things we spoke, few were the truths yet waiting to be born. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Harvest Song by Jean Toomer. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Harvest Song. I am a reaper whose muscles set at sundown. All my oats are cradled, but I am too chilled and too fatigued to bind them, and I hunger. I crack a grain between my teeth. I do not taste it. I have been in the fields all day. My throat is dry. I hunger. My eyes are caked with dust of oat fields at harvest time. I'm a blind man who stares across the hills, seeking stacked fields of other harvesters. It would be good to see them, crooked, split, and iron-ringed handles of the scythes. It would be good to see them, dust-caked and blind. I hunger. Dusk is a strange feared sheath their blades are dulled in. My throat is dry, and should I call a cracked grain like the oats? Eo-ho! I fear to call. What should they hear me and offer me their grain, oats, or wheat or corn? I have been in the fields all day. I fear I could not taste it. I fear knowledge of my hunger. My ears are caked with dust of oat fields at harvest time. I am a deaf man who strains to hear the calls of other harvesters, whose throats are also dry. It would be good to hear their songs, reapers of the sweet-stalked cane, cutters of the corn, even though their throats cracked and the strangeness of their voices deafened me. I hunger. My throat is dry. Now that the sun has set and I am chilled, I fear to call. Eo-ho, my brothers. I am a reaper. Eo-ho. All my oats are cradled, but I am too fatigued to bind them, and I hunger. I crack a grain. It has no taste to it. My throat is dry. Oh, my brothers, I beat my palms, still soft, against the stubble of my harvesting. You beat your soft palms too. My pain is sweet, sweeter than the oats or wheat or corn. It will not bring me knowledge of my hunger. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Men, Women, and Words by Ben Ray Redman for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922 by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Kevin Stewart. Men, Women, and Words. Clorinda, in the slipping gown, unblushingly parades her soul for clinical inspection as example of the sapphic role, while Doris shudders gracefully and droops against the man in black, confessing that she marvels at his length of limb and breadth of back. Dear Doris, so ingenuous, emotionally so sincere. The man in black is wholly charmed and lends a firm hedonic ear. Repression is the moment's theme. Gerald holds forth on Oedipus and mentions dire catastrophes that taste of his may bring to us if we attempt to circumvent our fateful Attic heritage, wadding his argument around with splendid Freudian verbiage. The slim young man against the wall, with pretty blushes epicene, evokes the shade of Socrates and lectures from the fire screen. Close by him sits Elizabeth, her pale hands bluely rectinerved, example virginal and wane of bunkered fuel too long reserved. Elizabeth bewails her fate with frankness not quite unafraid. The room is tenderly inclined, but no Satyros proffers aid. And so from hand to eager hand the facile ball of talk is sped. One waits for, misses, and laments the absent lover of the dead. Black was the Hellespont those nights, when for a priestess of Sestos, Leander slipped into the flood from the still town of Abydos. What theories sustained his stroke when all the world was overcast, and Freud and Jung still humbly lurked in unexpressed spermatoblasts? Did Orestes and Pylades, while camping by their Grecian streams, exchange, interpret, and set down the revelation of their dreams? Sappho, Jocasta, Oedipus, your names go round the room tonight, illumined by our modern blaze of psychoanalytic light. We pity you your sightless years, and celebrate our learned day, but Doris and the man in black, with ancient wisdom, steal away. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Hitch Your Wagon to a Star by Alan Tate for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922 by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by D. Randall. The dull conclave of crow's-footed faces twitches as the man with $1 enters. It moves a Sawyer delicate hand, as if displaying a marketable emotion on a string. Hear the tom-toms. Smell the warm, stale beer. See the curve of the synthetic quick waggle. Let ancient visions impinge the modern retina. Polish the image of a burnished Phrygia. For I have heard that somewhere on desolate and traditionally inspiring shores, small ladies possessing subtle bellies knew heroes whose creed held for no paltry ascendaton. And somewhat later, in the cool of a fern wood, one heard the grimly clatter of shields who threaded tapestries in the sheathing dark, and the courtyard rang with the feutering of spears. The emotion is marketable indeed, despite the crow's feet which Strato doesn't mention, showing the contemporary irrelevancy of myths and the understanding of a man with $1. Make gracious attempts at sanctifying Jenny. Supply cosmetics for the ordering of her frame. Think of her as Leda, as a goddess, the while she lives in Red Key, Indiana. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Paris by Hazel Collister Hutchinson. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Paris. Like a great cathedral, knee-deep in its little town, this fine old city gathers France about her. Grotesque chimney-pots look down like gargoyles. Stone desires fling themselves upward in the shape of spires, and life has washed to the very doors its fringe of filth. Ever the restless throngs, swollen with curious strangers, move through mysterious cloister and shadowed nave, stopping a moment before the groove of an ancient shrine where prayers are told to a sad, sweet lady in blue and gold. Glories of empire, pride of kings, the way impetuous, red blood flows. Courage and vision and lust and greed, how much she knows. Yet there is peace in her patient eyes, for in lonely chapels tapers yearn, quietly upward in points of flame, turning to beauty as they burn. End a poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Fellow Creature by Richard Kirk for Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by D. Randall. I saw the wind take roadside dust and make what seemed a living thing. In that gray whirl of earth did pride and life awake ere wind and dust fell flat. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Madman by Marion Nevin Funk. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Madman. He said he was afraid to sleep in a room where mirrors held the empty moon. The wind, he said, came up his stair with 3 stars tangled in her hair. That monstrous caravans went by in the black desert of his sky. But she that year long there had lain, coins of shadow in his brain. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Gayoso Girls Are Golden by Walter McClellan. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by D. Randall. Gayoso girls are golden and gleam forever where. In his still mind he sees them, bright-limbed and bare. Marble is not nor brass, to living flesh that glows. But though all flesh shall wither, still beauty blows. Over the pool of the mind, to man on his balconade, and beauty ascends the stairs, and cannot fade. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Poem by Ivan T. Dowell. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Kevin Stewart. Poem by Ivan T. Dowell. It may be that the filamented earth is an esoteric sphere within whose spatial concretion ancient images emerge and sign with reminiscent obscurity. It may be that the earth is an infinite snip in the imponderable plenitude of materiality. But I think that the earth is a huge ball of dung, encompassing the divine larva deposited by God, the unknowable Scarabaeus. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Dagmar by Yvonne Juvenal. For Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various. Read for LibriVox.org by Kevin Stewart. Dagmar by Yvonne Juvenal. She seemeth as a virgin, yet she hath the dark timbre of a rich soil, deeply tilled. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. End of Poetry of the Double Dealer, 1922, by Various.